good afternoon. It's so nice to finally talk to you and meet you. And I do want to say on behalf of NNOA, we're happy to have you and for you to be participating in this interview today for Women's History Month.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation and reaching out, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Now, I am going to give a little preface. So we have NNOA and we have NOAA. So right. I'm going to ask everyone to keep, forgive me if I misspeak because that is a tongue twister. But
me too.
Yeah, I've been practicing, so I'm hoping to get it down. So I do want to stay in our 30-minute time slot. So I'll just kind of go through our agenda. We'll go through some of your background, not all of it, just kind of, your background in academics and then what you're doing now. And then we'll move into the questions and then any kind of closing comments you may have.
Perfect.
Okay, so for everyone's essay, like I said, I'm going to keep the resume short, but for your academic background, so you got a bachelor's in marine science and biology from the University of San Diego. And then also the first master's is in aeronautical science and space studies from Embry-Riddle Aero University. And then the second master's is public administration from JFK School of Government at Harvard.
Yes.
Did I get it all right?
You did.
Okay, good. And then right now you're currently serving a part of NOAA, that is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And you currently serve as the director of the NOAA Office of Marine and Aviation Operations. And then Riyad Mohan also is the director of the NOAA Commissioned Officer Corps. So you recently took over that job, I believe, was it end of last year, correct?
I did. I officially started in it a little over a year ago, but it was a Senate confirmed position and that took about a year. So officially it started a couple months ago, but in reality, it started a year and a half ago.
Easy, good. So I guess we'll move right into one of the first questions. So I think kind of moving up as a leader, we're in those first 30, 60, 90 days, we're figuring out our team. We're learning, what is this leadership style going to look like? So my question to you is, in those first 30, 60, 90 days, how do you implement your leadership style with your team and kind of get everyone on board to your vision?
That's a good question. And it's definitely been trying to affect that in the COVID environment, which we all know is challenging. So it's not within the same construct I've been used to my whole career of having people in the workspace and doing a lot of travel to go out to our operational units. So as with all of our daily lives, it's been a lot of thinking about what mediums do we have, what communication mediums are effective, given people are kind of burnt out on it. So tried a variety with my team and their advice, just a variety of emails, all hands, with video, travel when I can, and trying to keep the message short and be, and recognize, meet people where they are right now. What, my initiatives in kind of a non-COVID environment would be different than they are now, because right now it's meeting people where they are and they're tired. They're tired and they're sort of burnt out. So I've really had to be mindful about meeting people where they are and setting initiatives that resonate with them, that they will be part of, that they can see themselves in and they'll be part of, because without that, it's pointless.
Exactly. And that's huge, like meeting people where they are. I think that kind of taps into having some emotional intelligence and understanding, like you're only going to get as far as your people allow you to go. So just acknowledging that and being in this COVID realm of like doing everything on Zoom as we are today, or trying to do like video conferencing and all of that, it can be difficult. But I think that's awesome. Just at least trying to feel your people out,
Right. No, well said. You're only going to get as far as people are willing to go. And if you don't meet them at the starting line, you'll never be with them. And then your purpose of serving them is lost from the beginning.
Exactly. Okay, so since it is Women's History Month, and that is why you are joining us today, I kind of want to understand what Women's History Month means to you. So you've been in for a good amount of time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes. So with this entire month dedicated to women and our history and what all we've done, what exactly does that mean to you?
No, it means a lot to me. I'm honored to serve in this position. I'm honored to have the support that I have through my career to reach this position, but it's also, looking around and seeing all of the women and the men, who have enabled us to serve in positions where we couldn't prior, both in uniform and in civilian life, and not just have those positions open to us, but be accepted in those positions, be, moving into a place where our contributions are viewed equally. So it's really looking around at the collective opportunities, at the collective effort it's taken to get here, things we can continue to improve on. But I'm optimistic about where we are. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunities I have, and I continue to contribute that as much as I can. But I think, it's really important to see people that we can identify with when we're, little girls, or even for us when we're, looking at our future. We need to see people we can identify with, because if not, it just doesn't seem tenable.
Exactly. And even you brought up like the point of the men really that have helped us on this journey of getting where we are. I think sometimes when we talk about Women's History Month and women's rights and all these things, like we also have men that are supportive and kind of pushing us forward to try to help us get where we are. And that's super important, acknowledging that when we're talking about everything that we're trying to accomplish.
I agree with you. I've had many, there have been many men and women, but many men in my career who have, supported me and believed in me when I doubted myself and pushed me to try again. And, I remember my first command, I went to one of my mentors who's a man, and I'm like, what do I do? And he said, you've already been selected. So there's a reason you're going here. And that was a real eye opener. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't need to prove that I belong here. I need to think about what I'm going to affect in this position. But having those helping hands when I've needed them has been really valuable from everybody.
You've already been chosen. So there's no need to try to prove,
Yeah, he said that. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm trying to get ready to prove that I deserve to be selected. And he's like, you've already been selected. That part's done. Now it's time to get to work.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So another thing that you touched on is the ability for us women to, or kind of like young girls to see that example and be like, hey, I want to do that. So as you were growing up as a kid, or even in high school, did you have women in your family or in your hometown or even in your school that kind of were like an inspiration to you that kind of drive your work ethic today?
There's a few examples. A couple I didn't remember. My mom had to remind me, but in my family, my grandmother and my mom and my aunt, I mean, it's always been, you can do anything you want. I was never told that I couldn't do anything. I was never told, well, only these professions or these opportunities are open to you. I never knew that. That was never something that was taught to me. And then when I think I did face it in other parts of my life, I was like, well, no, I already know that's not true. I can do anything I want if I'm willing to put in the hard work. So that was a good foundation. And then there were, I guess in first grade, a woman from our town who had sailed around the world came and presented to us. And I don't remember it, but apparently I went home and said, I'm going to be a marine scientist. That's it. And I never changed my mind. Yeah, it's the things you remember and the things that I didn't remember, but obviously made an impression on me, that, just those little voices of, you can do it, or seeing someone that had done something I could identify with. So I think it's all those micro moments that set your expectations and set your goals for you.
Yes. And as a little girl, like you said, if you have those strong women around you, you don't recognize the fact that there are outside entities or energies saying, actually, no, women are not allowed here, or women don't usually belong here, because that's not something that was fed into you as a young girl. You were just like, I can do whatever I want because my mom told me I can do whatever I want. And then there comes that point where you're like, oh, wait, everyone doesn't think that way. And now there's like a different dynamic. Have you dealt with that in your career? Kind of like the what do they call it? Like the imposter syndrome in a way, where you get somewhere and you're like, okay, wow, all right, different dynamics. And then there's also an energy in the room where you don't really feel like you're 100% welcomed.
I definitely have.
Mhm.
I definitely have questioned often if I belong to be there.
Mhm.
And then not seeing people identify with, not feeling like my voice is heard the same way, not feeling like my input matters as much as other people's input. That's definitely been a big part of just trying to find my footing and find my confidence and reach the place I'm at now, where I know I deserve to be here. I know I've done the work. I know I have the knowledge. I know I've put in the hard work to be where I am, but it took a long time to get to this place, a long, long time to get here. And I
Yes.
think part of it was inherent self-doubt, and then part of it was, reinforced, or maybe I read into signs around me that fed into that belief. But
Mhm.
definitely.
Yes, ma'am. And then getting that confidence and getting sturdy in that, I feel like is probably the best feeling ever. You're like, like I deserve this. I know I'm supposed to be here, and I'm just gonna move forward and execute what I want to do.
I like what you said, being sturdy in that, because sometimes I think when you first find the footing, it's not sturdy, it's a little
Right? A
tentative,
little
but
wobbly.
yeah. But being sturdy in it and being able to stand on it when it's really challenged, that's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So in that, when you were in those rooms, not always feeling welcomed, but you were also in your infancy of developing yourself as an officer and as a leader, I know I've dealt with this and a lot of my peers have. We are surrounded by a lot of men, and it is a male dominated profession. And sometimes you feel the pressure to masculinate. I don't even know if that's a word, but I just made it. But to kind of mold your leadership style to be more masculine, more aggressive, changing your voice and doing all of that. I know I've struggled with it. Friends have struggled with it. And then you find yourself at some point. But did you ever catch yourself doing that, or, have to no, this is not who I am?
Yes, it feels like I've tried on different sets of clothes, like tried
Yes.
on, a different dress or a different pair of pants or a different shirt, but they didn't feel right. I was like, this doesn't feel right. This
Right. It
doesn't fit.
wasn't
This is really
genuine.
uncomfortable. But I think in that journey of finding sturdy footing, I did try on different personas, right? Do I need to talk louder? Do I need to talk more directly? Do I need to, even physically, right? Like how I sit at the table or how I
Mhm.
greet people, or I think
All of those little things.
I've analyzed every single way of how you show up and present yourself. But I realized too how uncomfortable it felt. And in it, I lost my authenticity, and I lost my value in those changes, because I was doing that in place of the worth that I had to add, like the knowledge and the experience and the ideas that I had to add. So I think it was part of that journey of realizing acting like I might not look like someone else, but trying to act like them was not going to add any value. So it's
Mhm.
definitely finding, finding that sturdiness, like you said, and being authentic, like understanding who I am, accepting who I am, and really being sturdy. And I like the word you use, really being sturdy. And
Sturdy,
that
yes.
is the right person, right? That's the person that's going to add value. And I like the sayings, everybody else is already taken, so be yourself. I like
So
that
be
one.
yourself. I love that.
Be
I love
yourself.
that.
I
There
do
can
too.
only be one you.
There's only one you, but it's a journey. It's a journey, especially when you're often in a setting that's different than you. Just physically
Mhm.
starts out by looking different than you, and then might act different than you. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
been a journey too.
sure. Oh my goodness. And I still have so long to go. Oh
You
my.
seem like you're well on your way though, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm moving forward. Okay, so there was a recent panel discussion that you did for NOA. It was NOA Look at the Year. And you mentioned that one of your three pillars for OMAO is people. And you then went to say the diversity of our workforce is the strength of our organization. Could you kind of expand on that as far as what you meant by that?
Sure. No, that's a good one. So I see our organizations built on three pillars. So people, platforms, we have ships and aircraft and uncrewed systems, and culture. And we are working, we've been working hard to buy new ships and buy new aircraft and update, the platforms. But everything we do comes back to people. We can have the best ships in the world. We can have the most sophisticated aircraft in the world. But if we don't have the people who are motivated and trained and passionate and feel like they have a place to belong, right? That they're not just included, but they have a place to belong and show up as the person they are and contribute with ideas that they have, all of the rest is for naught. It's the ships will sit at the dock, the planes will sit on the ground, or if we get them, into operations, they're not going to operate at their maximum capacity because if we don't have the best people who have, again, that sense of belonging, who can show up as their true selves, who have a space to contribute, who feel like their voice is heard, we're going to miss so much. And without the right people, we're not going to have that culture of inclusion and motivation and growth. And so again, all the rest is for naught without the people. So it always comes back to the people for me, and being really mindful of where people are at. How are they feeling? Do they feel like they have a space to contribute? Do they have the right training? Do they have the right tools? Are we setting up the right environments for them to work, together as effectively as possible? So for me, it always comes back to that, because despite all the money in the world for new tools and platforms, they're all for naught without the people.
Yes, ma'am. And a part of having like the right people and making sure that everyone feels included is, having the right people at the table, making certain decisions that will affect everyone. A conversation that's going around right now in the Marine Corps is we had a new RADM that is kind of like opening some concerns that a lot of people in the Marine Corps have had. For example, how we can wear our hair, or, the maternity uniform. It's just like, I think those decisions were made because they had specific people at the table saying, I don't know if you're aware that this is a concern, but I represent that community. And, I think we need to put some attention to it. So kind of like building your team and addressing certain concerns. Are you pretty aware of kind of like who's sitting there and making sure that everyone has, a voice?
No, that's a really good point. I've definitely, right, like who shows up at the table? Do they have a voice? Do they feel like they have a voice, right? Because you might say, well, I gave everybody airtime and they didn't say anything. Well, they didn't speak them because they didn't feel included, or maybe they hadn't felt heard prior. So just having people in the room does not accomplish the mission of, getting that inclusive voice. So I've also recognized that, in my position, I am insulated from a lot of the feedback. So I worked really hard with my team to set up processes where, I solicit that input and people know I truly want the input, or the input's collected elsewhere and fed to me unfiltered, right? Because I know that I know there's a buffer between me and, where people are and what they feel. So I've worked a lot, doesn't look like it in this interview, but on asking questions, right? Just being quiet and asking questions, and let the silence lie and let the conversation flow, and don't have an assumption of what I'm going to hear, what I need to hear. Just let it happen and truly be listening and receiving information without anything to say, just receiving. Because you're absolutely right. If decisions are made with the wrong people at the table, they're not going to meet the need or accomplish the mission. It's going to be a complete mess.
Yes, ma'am. And honestly, rank is intimidating. Like you have these concerns, but you're like, oh, I don't know, she's an admiral or he's a general or whatever. But it's just like, you also know that your people are voicing these concerns to you. You got to get up somehow. So I think, like you said, people being in the room and feeling comfortable to say something, that's like the cherry on top to kind of complete everything.
It's come up in a lot of the discussions around SASH lately, and what's happening, some of the allegations on the merchant ships, but the community, the civilian and the military community have really pulled together that operate ships, right? To say, okay, how can we change the culture? And one of the comments or questions that really stuck with me on a recent panel was someone said, how do we get people to report these allegations, right? Because in one case, a female posted it on social media because that's where she felt safe, apparently. So they said, well, how do we get people to tell us? And I said, you have to make a safe space. And that safe space doesn't start when someone has, when there's a harassment or assault. That safe space starts when you had someone at the table, to your point, to have a conversation and make a decision on a uniform or on a policy that affected them, or when they, were in a hostile, we're facing some hazing or some bullying, and it was brought to your attention and you didn't do anything. Like, this is all a chain of events that builds from the beginning. So you can't expect, in the third quarter of the game, all of a sudden they're going to take you seriously if their perception is that you didn't the first 2 quarters. Like, it really starts with what might seem like the very small thing, but it's not a small thing to someone that's on the receiving end of this and living this every day. And this is their reality. So I try to be so mindful of the everyday actions and decisions and conversations, because they really set the context for what happens later when the consequences are extremely severe.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can't even count how many times like a Marine has like come up to me in the bathroom. It's just 2 of us in the bathroom. And she's like, ma'am, can I talk to you? And it's like the bathroom in that moment is her safe space, because she's like, okay, here's another woman, she seems to be pretty normal and approachable. I feel comfortable talking to her in the bathroom. I mean, and some may look at that as like unfortunate, but I see it as like, she sees me and she feels comfortable, and she finally found a space to just talk about whatever she's concerned about. So I completely agree.
I agree. Like you said, meeting people where they are, right? That's where they are in that time. They are just trying to seek someone they feel will listen to them, and that bathroom is their safe space. And that's it. Like, you have to meet them where they are. They don't want to say it in an all hands meeting. They don't want to, report it through the chain for whatever reason. That's the space they sought out. And I feel like those instances are so important to nurture.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, kind of ask you maybe a little personal question, not too personal, but I find that as women, or a lot of interviews I've seen with women of high rank or in high status, they always get asked the question about balance. And how do you balance everything? And it kind of is a pet peeve of mine, because I personally don't think balance is that achievable when you're trying to be so many different roles and perform and be present in every single one. So I guess my question is like, do you think balance exists? Do you have balance? Like, what are some ways that you try to remain present in every area of your life?
It's a good question. I was kind of smirking too, because I think I'm with you. I mean, I think it's all in the definition of balance, right? So I've had to.
What is that?
Really like redefine balance. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I'm married. And balance does not mean that I'm going to go to every single school event and like be every single volunteer position and, make special sandwiches every day. Like, that's just not balance for me. So balance for me, I've had to like really level set what that means. And I think going back right to that accepting of ourselves and finding that sturdiness in who we are, recognize that what I am giving is enough. And it kind of goes back to meeting her where she is. So COVID's been really enlightening for me, because I realized the first 8 years of her life, I was gone all the time. Like, I mostly missed the first 8 years of her life. But in COVID, she was home and I was home, and it was a really eye-opening experience. And I realized, meeting her where she is, that she didn't need me to do all these other things that I thought were the perfect mother. She just needed me to listen to her and talk to her and sit with her. And like, it was all in the small moments that mattered to her. And that was really eye-opening for me. So I think balance is doing the best you can, accepting that that's enough, and focusing the time you have on what people want, right? She just wants the little things. And I think that's the same thing in our service, because it's not a job, it's not just a career, it's a huge part of, who you and I are and what it means to serve and what we do, but recognizing what we give there. And especially when we do it as our true self, our authentic self, that's where the balance comes from. It comes from being authentic. It comes from realizing that what we give is enough and being mindful of where we give that and just not expecting what we might think of perfection from ourselves actually isn't perfection. So balance for me has been reevaluating what that is and accepting what I can give.
Right. Doing the best you can. I say that all the time to my Marines. I'm like, do the best you can with what you have. And that's all I can ask for. Like,
tomorrow might be different than today, but today you're at this place in time and you have these challenges and you have these things going on, and just do the best you can today and do it with good intentions. Come from, a place of authenticity, a place of honesty, a place of integrity. And if you give what you can from those places, then it's enough. That's balance.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. See, you think this is refreshing. This is such a refreshing
I like talking with you. I like talking.
Yeah, we should talk some more. We'll talk with everybody else away.
I agree.
Yes,
I agree.
So, oh my goodness, hold on. I'm in a motion sensing room. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I apologize.
Yeah, I know mine haven't gone out yet, but they might.
Yes. Okay, so today, ma'am, you are Rear Admiral Hann, but my question to you is, what would you say to Ensign Hann, knowing all that you know today?
That's a good question. Be kind to yourself. Be authentic to yourself, like who you are is enough and who you are is the way you're supposed to be. Enjoy the journey. Like really cherish the people that you'll meet along the way, because that's the most important part. But I would say be kind to yourself, be sturdy, right? Get that sturdy footing in who you are, because that's good enough. That's who you're supposed to be.
Yes.
I wish I could have not wasted so much time trying to figure those things out.
Yeah, and it's so hard. I mean, like I said, I'm still very early on. I'm approaching my 4th year, and I'm also on my 2nd set, you could say, or my 3rd set of Marines. And even then, it's still difficult because it's a new group, it's a new team, and you're trying to remain who you are, but also adjust to the new team that you have. It can be difficult, but I definitely agree with your advice, because the authentic leadership is the most genuine. It'll be the easiest because you're not pretending, You're
not wasting the effort on and the energy on trying to be someone else. And have you seen that as you step into that authenticity, that it's easier to connect with people, going through your 3rd group, that you can make that connection earlier on?
Yes, ma'am. Because I have a very large personality, and not everyone does. I like to talk a lot, and some of my Marines are usually on the quieter side or more reserved. But I meet them where they are. I'm not, trying to pull them out of their comfort zone, but I still try to talk to them. That just because they're quiet doesn't mean, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to that Marine. I'm still going to remain true to myself and poke you a little bit to see what I can get out of you. But I do find that to be the easiest when I am remaining myself. It feels like I'm getting better feedback, I'm getting better results, and I'm getting more out of my Marines, and that is the best feeling.
Good. That's really good.
So, that's good.
And hopefully you enjoy it more too. You feel more energized from those interactions in your work.
Yes, because even then, trying to be or pretend to be someone else in your leadership is very exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting because then it feels like I'm putting on a mask. And some people think this is a controversy topic of does the mask exist? But it can't feel that way when you go to work and you're trying to be this person, and then you go home and then you're like, okay, now I can be myself, or now, and that back and forth probably existed in my first few months, and I was like, this isn't gonna work.
Good. I'm glad you figured that out.
Yes, I did. Lesson learned. Lesson
Yeah,
learned.
good.
But so I am going to move into my last question. So in honor of this month and this interview today, I wanted to ask, what is your message to this generation of women coming up, not in just the military and the uniformed services, but in their career and kind of establishing themselves in their new stance? Like, what is your message to women today?
So you all have so much to give. I am learning so much from, the younger generation of women every single day. You are pushing the boundaries in good ways. So, I've seen directly as a result of, your energy and your just your passion, right? We're moving the conversation on how we treat each other. I mean, a lot of the conversation around harassment and assault and inclusion and diversity is coming from the voice of the younger generations, and especially the women who are just saying, no, that's not okay. This is enough. And I really value the voice and the courage of the young generation of women to say things. So do that. Keep doing that. Even when you face resistance, don't stop. You're doing the right thing. You're moving the services, you're moving, the communities, you're moving the country in a good direction. You are relentlessly having the conversations and pushing for the things that need to happen. So keep going, don't stop, be authentic in who you are, get comfortable with who you are, accept who you are, and remain true to that person. Even when it feels uncomfortable, don't change. When it's uncomfortable, just sit with that discomfort. You will get through it. Find, not just formally, but even informally, find the people that you're comfortable with, that you identify with, that you feel like support you, and nurture those relationships. They're really important. And go to people, ask for help, ask for support. By and large, people are going to want to provide that support. And it's really important to give you the hand up when on the days that you might need it. So I keep inspiring me, keep doing what you're doing, keep inspiring me, keep forcing, those of us in senior leadership positions to do better, to be better, to leave it better than we found it, because of your voice and because of your leadership. So that would be my message. You are the future. I mean, you are the hope. I look at our junior officers, our younger officers, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be able to leave soon, and it's going to be in better hands and mine. And that's a really good feeling. I think that's the best feeling, to step away from your career at that point.
Yes, ma'am. Phenomenal message.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what you all do. I'm really excited to support you and be part of it and further in any way I can, in or out of uniform.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I would like to say on behalf of the women of my generation and down, like, you are truly an inspiration. I was in complete awe of reading your bio and everything you've accomplished. And I was like, this is the kind of woman that I want to be. Like, this is the kind of woman that I want to be in academics, in my career. Like, you are truly an inspiration to me, and I know to so many of my peers.
Thank you. And I know you all will have an even bigger impact than I have. So you're an inspiration to me. I mean, your whole generation is, and I'm just so excited to be in this with you and do everything I can to make it a better place for you all.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that concludes our interview. The president of the NNOA would like to make a few comments, and thank you for being here. So I'm going to ask him to jump in. Oh, there he is. Hello, sir.
Ladies, I have so many thoughts I'd love to share. As I think Admiral Hann, Nancy, I'm the son of a single working mother who was in the Women's Army Corps, and raised by women. And I've said before, as recently as this past month, that the single most important thing that has happened in my 34 years in the United States Navy, for good for our force, was the elevation of women. it has dramatically changed and improved our readiness, our ability in any number of ways, more than technology or anything else. And it's people like yourself, even though you're not in the Navy, you're in NOAA, and people like Lieutenant Curry, who just provide more evidence that this is true. So I won't share any more except to say to Lieutenant Curry, thank you so much. A brilliant interview. I was just enthralled from the very beginning. To Admiral Hann, thank you. Thank NOAA for joining us in an OA formally or restating it with our MOU. And thank you for your service and your example for all of us, women and men, of what it takes to be right and being comfortable in your own skin and being honest and forthright. I also want to thank Ruben Wright, who has been helping coordinate this, and I can't find enough tasks for him. David Hall from NOAA and Laura Dyer from NOAA for their support as well. But thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Admiral Harris. Well said. And I'm so thankful for the partnership and with NNOA, with the partnership with you and getting to know you. And Lieutenant Curry, I really enjoyed this interview. I really, appreciate your thoughtful questions and just your excellent leadership in setting this up. So I'm energized by every engagement with you, Admiral Harris, with you today, Lieutenant Curry, and just thank everybody on here that made it happen. But this definitely was the highlight of my week or month. So thank you. This was good.
This was awesome. Okay, so ma'am, I am gonna say I do plan on sending you a little email after this just to thank you and hopefully we can connect again another time.
Agree.
I would love that.
I like that, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I guess we'll all exit out now and y'all have a great day.
Have a great day.
Don't forget the 50th in Annapolis.
That's right.
Yes, I will be there. And
I like the sun.
Yes, I will be there.
I plan to be there too, so we'll meet there, if not before.
I love it. It's gonna be fun.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.